Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program Discuss here on Global Television as we look to discourse one of Nigerians' dicey conversation around constitutional review. The Nigerians national and bring you up to speed because this conversation has been ongoing. We've seen protests happening all over the country in line with this concern, in line with this subject matter. Discuss is a program where we tend to extract and, dissect current issues going on affecting the lives of every Nigerian. Okay, now we'll bring you a quick update on what has been the background story within or cycling around constitutional review. Nigeria's National Assembly is actively reviewing the 1999 Constitution with recent focus on key issues like states, policing, power devaluation, facial federalism and local government autonomy, electoral reform and women's representation, aiming to finalize amendment by late 2025 for state assembly approval. But that did not happen because all of some key angles were not properly highlighted and taken care of, so it got moved, and we are hoping that when the National Assembly resumes back its sitting later on the 27th of January this year, we'll be hoping to see this conversation continue. But we'll be looking at the key development, which includes holding national public hearings that happened in the late of 2025, reviewing dozens of proposed bills and receiving strong public input for comprehensive change, especially concerning security and governance structure. Key areas of focus in this constitution review, it's around security and policing. Strong call for state police and comprehensive police reform are central. And then facial federalism proposal include transforming control of natural resources, talking about mining and water to states and sharing revenue. Then power devaluation demands for more autonomy for local governments and states. Electoral reforms aiming for streamlining elections, independent candidacy, and an electoral offense commission. And then another key conversation and key reform that is being to happen is around gender representation proposed for reserved seats for women. And then most recently, we see the next step around zonal and national hearing. Mid-late 2025, extensive public consultation were held across Nigeria. Community work also happened late 2025. The joint community finalized draft amendment after this hearing. And also we saw current phases. The proposed amendments now head to the 36 states houses of assembly for approval or needing a 2/3 majority. Overall goal to address pressing national challenge and update constitution to better reflect the will of the Nigerian people with legislative efforts ongoing to pass key reforms. So these are what the House will be looking forward to when they resume the sitting on the 27th of January, and then we'll see how all of this will happen. But on today's conversation, I have a guest with me who will be joining us shortly after this break, who will help us understand the constitutional reforms and the key things that are meant to be more focused on, because the 1999 Constitution actually stated that we, the people of Nigeria, and a lot of persons, lawyers, have also come out, and Nigerians have come out to say that we did not agree. There was nothing like we, the people of Nigeria, in the statement. So we'll be understanding the background and what led to we, the people, and what it's highly needed to be addressed or be looked into in this current 1999 Constitution, as reforms and review is still ongoing. So we'll be going on a very quick break, and when we return back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Discourse here on Global Television, and I am Samuel Odi. Before we went on the break, I told you we will be looking at constitutional review, and we're aiming to see how we can strengthen our democracy so as every Nigerian will feel included in the constitution or the rule of law that governs Nigeria. Before we went on the break, I brought to you key segments that is being under review. That's gender-based reform around for women. We've also seen electoral reform and other key segments also mentioned. So to help us understand this conversation and x-ray all of this conversation, it's a policy consultant in the person of Emmauel Ozoemena. Good afternoon. Many thanks for joining us on this edition of Discourse.
Good afternoon.
Okay. It's good to always have you. Or happy New Year, I would say.
Yeah.
All right. So this conversation has been ongoing for longest, for over a decade now, and we've seen some youths, some say Gen Z, some say millennial, but we saw a mix of young Nigerians, well-meaning Nigerians, coming out to protest at some point around electoral reform and also constitutional reform. But looking at it now, why do you think constitutional reform is strongly needed at this time?
Maybe I think I should start this way. I recall 20 years ago, I did a paper on constitutional amendments, lessons from America. That was in 2006. So it's 20 years ago.
Yes.
A few weeks ago, I was reflecting on that paper. I said, look, nothing has changed. It looks as if the entire process is pouring water on the stone, on the rock, which is basically a waste of energy, resources, and time. To begin with, what I think that has emerged in the last, since the return of democracy in 1999,
yes,
is that we have ended up creating what I could call a constitutional reform cabal in the National Assembly. For me, it's a drain pipe in the sense that the first constitutional reform process that happened under this current Fourth Republic was on July 13th, 1999. I recall a member of the House of Reps, Jerry Ugokwe, from then, I think representing a member of the PDP representing Idemili North and South Federal Constituency, raised a motion for amendment of the Constitution. In fact, that's the first time on record under the Fourth Republic when the process for constitutional amendment began.
Yes.
From there, we had President Olusegun Obasanjo set up an inter-party committee around reform, and till date, that process is still on. Incidentally, that of 1999-2003 didn't yield anything.
Yes.
It ended up in chaos. And we moved on to 2006, and you saw the process around term and other things. I think then it was 109 items, provisions for amendment.
Yes.
I remember my argument is simple. If you look at the U.S. Constitution, the first time an attempt was made to amend it, there were only 10 items for amendment. And that 10 items, not all of them succeeded. I think about 7 or thereabouts succeeded, which were mainly what they call Bill of Rights. Right to free speech, right to free assembly, right to bear arms and all that. It's classified as Bill of Rights amendment. And one of the amendments that was proposed finally scaled through over 130 years later. So what it simply means is that what you call democracy, it's a process. But here, what I have found happening
in the Nigerian system,
like I said, a cabal. Each time you set up National Assembly, the first thing that is in the mind of the leadership is setting up a constitutional amendment committee to be headed by the deputy speaker, the deputy senate president, and the deputy speaker.
Yes.
So over time, if you calculate the resources so far invested, I think should have been put in other very useful venture.
Yeah.
So I have taken time to do a review of that process. If you ask me, my personal opinion is a waste of resources. It's resources we should have channeled into more productive activity. How did the Constitution stipulate for amendment? In section 9 of the Constitution,
yes,
it clearly states how constitutional amendment should happen. And it's something that can come just as part of legislative process. You don't need to set up any special committees and all that. Yes. So if you ask me as a Nigerian, I feel National Assembly is blackmailing Nigerians. Because in the last 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2019, yes, 2015, 2019, and now we are now in 2023 or 10th Assembly. Yes. So the same process. So amending a constitution, it's a simple process as any other legislative activities. That's the first thing we need to establish. So if any legislator feel at any time, just like Honorable Jerry Gokwe on 13th of July 1999, say, look, I have this amendment. You bring it up. And it's listed if it's on issue, let's look at the gender rights, whatever. Commit it to the committee on women affairs and perhaps women in parliament. And they go through it, conduct public hearing, and that process happen. A vote is taken, you take it down to the state houses of assembly. If you get 2/3 of state concurring, and that becomes an amendment, and you move on. But what we have seen happen is create a committee, have a huge budget, and waste it. So I'm speaking as someone who has taken time to follow these processes of amendment. The first technical fault or faulty approach I have detected is that they will lump up so many issues that will never be resolved
within the time frame.
Within the time frame, and those issues will linger and linger, like it happened. I think in 2015, the president said, "Look, I'm not going to." President Jonathan said, "I'm not going to sign anything," and the entire investment was a waste. So how can we run a sustainable democracy? Very simple. Any member of the House of Representatives or Senate who feels there's an issue in a section of the provision of the Constitution that he thinks should be amended, simply come by the way of a bill. We face it, deal with it, trash it. Is either succeeds or fails, you move on. So, but this idea of, we have a holistic this, we bring in over 100 items, 30 items, 50 items, as far as I'm concerned, is simply a political game that we have witnessed several times, and it's as if the cabal who run this are getting so happy because it means there's so much resources going into it. It becomes a budgetary item that you must
always renew.
You must always renew for each of the assemblies. If you ask me, it's not productive, it's not sustainable.
Okay, looking at it, you made mention of something very striking. You said it looks like the National Assembly, it's blackmailing Nigerians. Can you elaborate on what angle you feel that is happening?
No, it's simple. We're going to do this constitutional amendment, and people, you raise the hopes of people, of Nigerians, of citizens, and they get so enthusiastic, and nobody thinks through that process to interrogate what are these guys up to. What is their intention? Is it a game they are playing? Are they really committed to anything? Because at the end of the day, the end result simply shows that nobody's committed to anything. So, but because you have such a followership, in this case I'm talking about citizens who either because of the situation in the country, or they have been so desensitized to have independent thinking, to think through processes. So each time it comes, the frenzy is created, a buzz is created, and everybody is agitated.
Agitated and excited, yeah.
And then before you know it, you find out that, look, these guys means nothing. It's simply a way of creating a budgetary item that leads to nowhere.
Okay, let's look at this from this. Let's look at the Constitution itself, the 1999 Constitution. In your view, what do you think are the weakest angles or the weakest, lineups in the 1999 Constitution that needs urgent review? We'll be looking at the Senate coming back, or the National Assembly having their sitting officially for the year 2026 on the 27th of January, and this is the first thing that they've actually mentioned that they'll be looking into. So what do you think they should actually pay more attention to, so as we've seen agitations around electoral reform? Do you think that is the big thing they should focus on, or the gender representation and sit for women?
Perhaps let me, maybe for the records.
Yes.
What you call 1999 Constitution, each time people say it's a military constitution, it's not true.
Okay.
1999 Constitution is a product of the Constitutional Conference.
Okay.
Set up in between 1995 and 1996.
Okay.
It was a report of that conference that we had a military administration
yes.
of General Sani Abacha.
Yes.
So there was a draft constitution that General Sani Abacha had. His administration had
been building on and working.
Had even released. It was a public document. It was a public document.
Okay.
Is following from that report of that conference. That's where you had the issue of creation of additional states.
Yes.
Because by the time General Babangida left as military head of state, we had 21 states. So they had to create additional states, making it 36. So what I'm actually saying essentially is that 1999 Constitution is a product of discussion by Nigerians. So from that draft constitution of the report of the Constitutional Conference, what happened was, by the time General Salami Abubakar came on board, now he set up what is called a constitutional debate coordinating committee, headed by the then MBA, National President of Nigerian Bar Association.
Yes.
I think Chief Thompson Onomiwo Boko, SAN. Because I remember meeting a lawyer who is very senior lawyer, who was a member of that committee representing MBA.
But there are some lawyers who have actually argued
hold on.
That the
problem we have in Nigeria, if you ask me, is a memory problem.
Okay.
People don't remember. We don't have institutional memory. And I'm surprised that people, even in government, who speaks for, say, Minister of Information, have not been able to say, look, this is the process. Nobody has spoken to it. So each time they say, oh, a military, I say, how? How is it a military constitution? Because it's a constitution. You had a national conference that had people who were elected. We had eminent Nigerians. I remember Elese Kweme was a member. Odumegwu Ojukwu, Adamu Chiroma. They were Nigerians across board. It was following the election of people into the Constitutional Conference that led to the killing of Ken Saro-Wiwa, because they had the Ogoni people were not able to agree on who to send to that Constitutional Conference. It was in that process that they had that crisis in Ogoni land. So my worry is that you have this memory problem across the country. Nobody remembers. Is it that people don't remember, or they don't want to talk about it?
Ask questions about it.
Yeah. So each time they bandied this about military constitution, I say, how? How did it come? How is it a military constitution? You might say, look, the final approval would have been done by members of the Federal Armed Forces Ruling Council, AFRC. There's no problem about that. But the point is that what was the idea of the entire thing that culminated into the 1999 Constitution? What is the origin? So what you have across, I have seen it across political spectrum, is that people do not remember, or they remember they don't want to talk about it, or it's all part of that political correctness. So that's number one. So then looking at the issues, now you are talking about electoral reform. We're talking about gender,
policing and federalism and all of that.
So how do you build a nation? On May 4th, 1776, people met in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and said, look, we need to form a union called United States of America. And at that union, they had 13 representatives. 13 of the colonies were represented, and each of these colonies were independent colonies. I mean, you talk about Commonwealth of Texas, Commonwealth of New York. So it means they were independent colonies. And that's how Nigeria also emerged. Nigeria was emerged from three different parts. You had Northern Protectorate and Southern Protectorate, and then the colony of Lagos. So you had these three parts being formed on the 1st of January 1914. That's what you call today as a Republic of Nigeria. And even though then you had this legislative council that were largely populated by British representatives of the crown, or the British king. But you had about 4 Nigerians who were sitting on that council. One represented Calabar, 3 or thereabout represented Lagos. So it was not as if so countries. That's how Nigeria emerged. So, but in the United States, by the time they had their constitution, till date, they keep having amendment process. So a legislator who feels this issue should come up for an amendment brings it up. It's trashed. It goes through the states, because you must have concurrence from states, and which is what we have in the Nigerian Constitution. The 1999 Constitution, incidentally, is an adaptation of the American federal presidential constitution. I've said that clearly. So if you need to understand Nigerian democracy, or if the people who manage Nigeria thinks, look, we need to see a model of where this has worked, look to the United States. But most times you find they want to shy away
from what's happening in the United States.
So in that paper I did 20 years ago, I said, look, you want to amend the constitution of Nigeria, and you have 109 items. It's a non-starter. It simply means you are not serious. Because, given the diversity of Nigeria, you can't agree on the issues.
109 of them.
109 issues.
At a go.
It's just impossible. But do you know what people remember about the amendment of 2006? Third term, yes. That's the only thing. Which was simply removing the term limit on the tenure of the president and governors. But it will shock you that even in the United States, up till 1951, it was an unlimited tenure they had. It was in 1951 they had an amendment. So the point is, how do we build a nation? Do we build a nation by this process of having every assembly, national assembly, every state assembly would get themselves so bogged down with the amendment of 1999 Constitution. And there's no way in the world where you now refer to a constitution and say 1999 Constitution as amended. There's no way in the world. The American Constitution has been amended several times. But you say Constitution of the United States of America. That's simple. So I remember having a conversation with a non-Nigerian. I was talking about 1999 Constitution as amended. He asked me, he said, look, in his teaching of law all over the world, you don't have such process. It's either we now say, okay, we're not talking about 2023 Constitution, but as amended, what does it mean? Nothing. So in Nigeria, we create all kinds of things. Take, for instance, distinguished senator. What does it mean? It means nothing. But what you have is a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Somebody stood on the Senate and said, look, you know, I should be addressed as distinguished. That's how that tag stuck. Check through the Constitution. You won't find any such. There's nowhere in the world where you see such things. All protocol duly observed. You can't. That's not English language. But you know, in Nigeria here we have a way of creating all kinds of things. So the key issue is that we are talking about gender.
Yes, representation.
Bill,
yes,
gender bill.
Yes.
Now the question to ask is, I've looked at the gender bill. We're taking it from East Africa.
East Africa, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have it in the UK? Do you have it in the United States? Do you have it in Colombia? Do you have it in Argentina? Everybody runs an election.
Yes.
So now, do you know Nigeria had a woman member of the National Assembly before the US? A member, I think Janet Emmauel was elected in 1959 to represent a constituency from the old Eastern region. The son later became Minister of Information under General Sani Abacha. That's the mother. In the US, if I tell you when the first woman got elected into the Congress, you'll be shocked. So the point I'm making is simply this. How do we intend to structure it? How will those women seats be contested?
Yes.
Are you going to say, oh, each geopolitical zone will now nominate a woman? Only women from so for me, I've looked at it. It looks impossible, practically. So it's one of those things you could call tokenism. It's more of tokenism than real creating assets for women.
But don't you think they'll feel excluded in governance?
No, but we have had women. I remember at a point in Anambra they had 3 women senators. 3 or 2 at one point in Anambra.
Yes.
All the women, all the senators from they had 2 to 1.
Yeah.
And in some states, in fact, in 1999, I remember a lot of women who even won elections. So what we're saying is that if we create parties that, first of all, provide level playing field for candidates, where candidates are campaign on ideology, campaign on issues, campaign on the quality of their competencies. Even though the final verdict will come from voters. You know, you can't impose it on voters. Yeah, so for me, that's my response. Do we really need it to start creating tokenism? Because it's actually not an empowerment, it's tokenism. But if a woman runs an election, wins, and is sitting there, she can beat her chest and say, I won this seat. In the US, have you heard them talk about creating special seat for women? Think about that. In the UK, we've had UK women who became prime minister. As far back as 1979, we had Margaret Thatcher as the leader of the Conservative Party. We had Theresa May. We had several of them thereafter. So the question is, do we provide equal opportunity for every citizen? That's what we should.
That's the next question I'm coming at now. Do we provide equal opportunities to every
citizen? The other question you were asking about state creation, was it state creation or
electoral reform? Before we come back to electoral reform, let's handle this, because in terms of governance now, every citizen of Nigeria has the right to run for office. But with everything happening within political parties as we stand, the price that is being the price tag that these political parties have placed on getting the form to run for an office. Do you think, aside women, do you think youth can also be able to have the ability? Don't you think there should be a provision in the Constitution that would put a benchmark of a certain amount that all Nigerians will be able to afford if they have the ideology that people would run with to, elect them into office?
No, the only amendment I think we could inject in the Constitution should be just independent. For in electoral reform should be independent candidacy. For me, that's the only amendment. Or it simply would be this. If at any point in time I think I want to run for an office and I join Party A and they refuse to nominate me. And in my brain or in my head, I think I'm popular. I should be able to run as an independent. Incidentally, up till 1963 Constitution recognized independent candidacy. There were people who were elected as independents. I mean, in 1951, people were elected as independent. In 1959, people were elected as independent. In 1963, people won election as independent. So I wonder what would have happened in 1979, even though we adopted an American presidential constitution. In the US, people had always been running as independent from the word go. So that's an issue I even think is more important than these other issues they are flagging on. Simply have an independent candidate. If a woman or man, boy or girl, youth, feels, look, I have the voters on my side. He should be able to run on his honor. And if he's elected, so be it. Because it's clearly the voters who should decide who represents them. So what it will do, it will lead to an organic reform of the parties. What the parties would have done is political parties would have said, look, we need to clean up our acts. We need to look for candidates that are popular to run on our platform. Because if someone can run on his own platform and win an election, then so be it. So that's even where we should be investing our energies instead of this other diversion. You know what happens in political environment is that politicians are very smart people. They have a way of creating diversions, spins, just to give the people impression I care about you. And then, but he or she knows that, look, this is leading to nowhere. But we'll get the people so
engulfed into it,
so addicted into it, because he wants to leverage on it for the next election. But he knows it's an issue that will not be resolved. So when he fails, he said, look, I need to be given another opportunity so I can go and fight for this issue. do you understand? So the point is that voters should be smart and not to be allowed not to get diverted. Let me even give you a simple example of how the National Assembly has failed. Just one example. Now, in 2020, we had this coronavirus, COVID-19 challenge, pandemic. When it came, there was no law to do a lockdown. There was no modern law in the legislation to do a lockdown. They had to go back to 1919 colonial legislation
to be able to
lock down. So it simply means that people who we pay in National Assembly do not take their time to study trends, to study the Constitution, to study even the received law from the colonial government, and say, look, which one should we amend? Because things have changed. Because even in Britain, if you follow the British politics on a regular basis, they amend these laws.
Following the trends of
So two things would have happened. Either we do not have proper record keeping and archiving of legislations, or the people we have elected into National Assembly are pursuing other matters. Because if they were not, they should have thought, oh, look, we have Center for Disease Control, CDC in Nigeria, even though it was an adaptation, it's a gift from the United States. United States of America set it up, agreed up to this point. So what should we have done? Shouldn't we have been thinking around making legislation around processes of possible things within the modern era? And you see people sitting in nationals, nobody is interested. There are key things they should pay attention to. They are not paying attention. Key reforms that should happen, that is not happening. I'm surprised we have a law reform commission. What law reform commission is supposed to do is, if you have 100,000 laws in Nigeria, they should look at each of them and say, how do we modernize them? How do we make it in sync with the current realities? There are some penalties that would have said you pay, say, 20 pounds or 20 kobo. And that's what is still there. It's not been amended. Or 20 shillings. So these are what National Assembly should be doing. But they are not, they are pursuing what you call a constituency project. Which is also another matter for another discussion another day. But the key issue is, if you ask me, National Assembly is not effective. They are underperforming. What is their key role? They are not doing it. They chase shadows.
Well, let's go on a very, very quick break, and then when we return back, this conversation continues as we continue to look at how our constitutional review can strengthen rule of law in a democratic system. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Interesting conversation we've been having here on Discourse, where we highlight and look into states of the nation concerns, everything affecting the every citizens of Nigeria. And we'll be having conversation today around constitution review, how it can strengthen a democratic system. And I have here with me in the studio Emmauel Ozoemena, who is a policy consultant. Mr. Emmauel, let's, something again being looked into around constitutional reform. It's about local governments, federalism and local government autonomy. Looking at it now, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came into power, he said, first subsidy, gone. And then local government autonomy, there you go. So looking at it now, do you think that the local governments really have autonomy to run their affairs and not having state governors, get involved with what's currently happening?
I think the people talking about local government autonomy, again, don't understand the Constitution.
Okay.
Because if you read the 1999 Constitution as at today, it's very simple. The issues of local government falls within the purview of the states.
Okay.
The state houses of assembly legislate. So what it means, like any federal system of government, is that each state looks at their needs and say, how many local government areas do we need to have? That's one. Two, what structure of local government area fits into our peculiar circumstances? Let me give you an example. In the US, I think about 28 states, you don't have deputy governors in the US, you have lieutenant governors.
Yes.
So in 28 states, lieutenant governors are elected. So you could have a Republican governor and a Democrat lieutenant governor, or an independent lieutenant governor, because they run separately.
With different ideologies.
Yeah, but in the other states, it's a governor who appoints a lieutenant governor after his election. The office of Attorney General is open to every citizen who is a lawyer, had reached a certain number of years. You can contest. And then the structure of, and even the framing of the local governments differs from state to state. States that have a Dutch origin, I mean, most of the structure of the local government reflects what you have in Netherlands. States where you have people who came in from Britain,
Asian communities, just like we have Chinatown.
and you have the structure around that.
Yes.
In fact, there are some states in America where local government areas are defined as parishes, and that's what you have in some parts of the UK. You have also have them in West Indies. In Jamaica, states are actually addressed as parishes. So what I'm saying is, what the 1999 Constitution simply states, it's a very simple thing. States shall determine what they think, the structure they think their local government should have. Because in a federal system of government, you have the federal and federating units. But what we have done, perhaps for politics, I don't know where it came from, or misinterpretation. We have, what we now do, you have federal government, state government, and local government. That's not true. In the real sense of federalism. Because even in the 1999 Constitution, the decisions on local government rest with the state houses of assembly, and the state house of assembly shall make laws for. So the entire thing, you know, politicians and political interests have a way of trying to interpret it. Let's cast our mind back to over 20 years ago in Lagos, when the current president
was the governor.
President Tinubu was the governor of Lagos. As governor of Lagos, they created local government areas. Federal government came and said, no, it can't happen. Why did they say it can't happen?
Because it's interfering with some states.
No, the problem simply is this. I think that was an injustice to the Constitution. Because states, as it were, should determine what they think they want. But the only issue is this. Part of the problem we have had, we have a federal system that now allocates money to local government.
Yes.
So if you increase the number, the fear is that, oh, how are we going to do the allocation? But if we didn't have a situation where monies come from the federal, you're going to have a different. Let's take, for instance, in the under the colonial rule and in the First Republic, in the northern region, they had regional House of Assembly and House of Chiefs. In Western region, they had regional House of Assembly and House of Chiefs. But in the Eastern region, they didn't have House of Chiefs. Why? Because the circumstances within the East is different. You don't have centralized traditional leadership. But in places in the North and in the Western region, where you had these traditional institutions, they had to create a state house of chiefs for them. Before the coming of the British colonial rule,
yes,
in the Eastern region, you do not have such centralized leadership. What you had was communities were organized around a republican acephalous structure. So it's even the British colonial government that introduced what they call warrant chiefs,
okay,
which were largely rejected and rejected by several parts of the Eastern region. There were protests, and in fact, those chiefs warrant chiefs. Most of them had to run away out of the community. So what simply means is that local governance should fit into the needs of the community. What federalism simply says is the federal government and constituent unit, and the constituent unit in this case is the state. So these are part of the problem of operationalizing democracy in Nigeria. Local government is not part of, it's federal government and the states. But I don't know where this whole idea came from.
You know, you mentioned something earlier, quickly, as we are getting set to, you know, wrap up this edition of Discourse. You mentioned something earlier before we went on a break, and then it struck me where you mentioned that the National Assembly are underperforming. So in what light were you highlighting that statement, and how do you think they can do better in terms of serving Nigeria, because they are obviously being paid by taxpayers' money?
No, National Assembly should have people, they should have a department that would liaise with the Law Reform Commission. Look at, there's laws, legislation that are over 200 years old. There are legislations meant for the colony of Lagos that no longer carries any relevance as at today. There are laws, legislation meant for Northern Protectorate that no longer has any relevance as at today. That's what they should be looking at. There are laws meant for Southern Protectorate. That was even before you had Western region, Northern region, and the Midwest region and Eastern region. But those things are still there. They're not paying attention to them. There are several key issues that could facilitate development. They're not paying attention to them. I don't know, maybe it's this issue of, the moment somebody resumes as a legislator, the next thing he's thinking is, the next election, how do I sort this out? How do I, because in fact, half of the people in National Assembly, if you ask them to close their eyes and if you wake them up in the morning and say, what did you deliver? It's only one, constituency project. But constituency project is not why legislators are elected. They're elected to make laws. So if you tell me, I delivered 1 million aircraft, that's not your job.
Because that's the job of the community.
No, that's the job of the executives.
Yes.
Half of them, in fact, over 99.9% cannot mention one legislature. I saw one who was talking about his listing as his legislation, an amendment to an existing law that I knew the man who passed it. In fact, I was on the man's team in 1999 when we sat down to draft that bill. I met the man when he was elected, and he saw a need, and that bill was drafted. The other person who came in, I think 12 years later, was claiming he brought an amendment on a provision. That's what he listed as his achievement. I looked at it, I said, this man is not serious. He can't be serious. So the point is ask. You have a representative, ask him, Oga, what did you deliver as a legislative intervention? There's none. Apart from empowerment, buying KK, ask him what is the quality that we can remember that is on record. Nothing. So it also means that Nigerians who are going to vote should look for people who are knowledgeable, because you have a knowledge economy. Because what posterity will remember you for as a legislator are bills you're able to push and laws you're able to bring into being.
That is helping the life of the citizens.
That is helping democracy to become a livable, Nigerians to live under a democratic setting. That's the important thing. Not the number of jobs you have created for your...
Which is also important.
Yeah, but it's not your primary
assignments. Yes.
The point is that we have lost what is called legislative duties. We've lost it, and I wonder when we're going to recover it.
So what's your final take now for the legislative?
They should brace up and focus on their work. At the moment, I'm not impressed. At the moment, they are chasing shadows.
Well, I want to say a very big thank you to Mr. Emmauel Ozoemena, policy consultant, for taking our time to join us on today's edition of Discourse. This has been a very, insightful conversation we've had today.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
Yes, and this is how much time will permit us to take on today's edition of Discourse as Nigerians tilt and gear up towards constitutional review and the conversation that will be following up afterwards. We're hoping that the interest of every citizen of this country will be put at heart when all of these reforms are being made. My name is Samuel Odi. I'll see you again as we discuss further. Bye for now.